Hi everyone, today I want to talk about one of my favourite topics, trainers. And the reason I wanted to do this video is because people actually ask me quite a lot what trainer they should be buying. And the reason is because there's so many on the market and the price range is enormous. So it's really tough for people to decide whether they should be spending £20 on a pair of trainers or £150. So hopefully this video will be helpful if you're thinking about getting a new shoe. These are just some of the trainers I own. I own lots and lots of trainers, and I thought it was probably best not to lay out all the trainers I own so that my husband doesn't see how many pairs I actually have. I've got them hidden all in different, some are in a cupboard, some are upstairs, they're in different places. So he probably doesn't know exactly how many I've got, so I thought let's not make that clear. So I've just got 3 pairs here for the demonstration. These 2 pairs are for indoor training, which is why they look much better than this pair. This pair are my running shoes, and I know that they are disgusting looking, but they are absolutely amazing. And so we'll talk about why that is in a second. But we'll start with the indoor shoes just now. So the indoor shoes are actually the shoes I wear the most because it's where I do all my training. It's all indoors, all in the house. And they don't go outside, which is why they're so clean, which is handy. Both these shoes look very similar, but they're actually quite different. These black ones are quite a bit more padded on the inside, and these blue ones are very lightweight. There's almost no padding at all, and neither of them cost particularly much, probably about £40–50, which is not an awful lot for trainers. And I would say if you're buying a shoe for just general fitness, you're just doing some training indoors, you're going to an aerobics class, you're doing some gym work, I wouldn't spend an awful lot of money on those types of shoes. And really the only difference between these two is comfort. Some people prefer a really light shoe, very little padding. They find it really comfortable to squat in because it kind of almost makes it seem like they're barefoot, but they're not quite because there's just so little to them. And other people find that too minimal and they like a bit of padding and a bit more comfort. So that really is just a personal choice. And actually, if I'm being totally honest, I just like both these pairs of trainers and I wear both of them quite happily. Sometimes if I'm doing a lot of high impact, the thinner pairs can not feel as cushioned, obviously, because there's not as much cushioning. And so maybe if I was doing a lot of jumping, I would maybe opt for a slightly more padded shoe. But I would say that difference is really, really minimal. Get a shoe that you like, try it on, make sure it's comfortable, and don't spend a fortune would be my advice if you're doing just general workouts indoors. If you're doing sports specific training, so you're playing tennis, squash, golf, and running, then of course you're going to need a more specific shoe. Now how much you want to spend on that really depends on how serious you are about your sport. So running is probably the best example. Running shoes can easily range between £100 and £150. That's probably quite a common ballpark figure. Especially if you go to one of these shops where you run on the treadmill and they look at your foot and they get a shoe to match. That is only necessary if you are doing a lot of mileage. Now I got these shoes when I ran my last marathon, which was quite a few years ago now. Now I should probably have updated these shoes since then, but I now don't do a lot of mileage, so these are fine. But I invested in a great pair of running trainers when I was training for the marathon because the mileage I was doing a week was enormous. I was no longer doing 1 or 2 running sessions a week, which was what I was doing prior to the training plan. And so I would say that's a good rule of thumb. If you go out for the odd run, again, just pick a comfortable shoe. You don't need to go and get people to check how your foot's pronated and things. It's not going to be a massive factor. However, if the mileage is going up and it's starting to become really something you're doing a lot, you're training for a half marathon, a marathon, or even without training for an event, that's the kind of mileage you're starting to cover over a week, then I would say that's the time to spend the money and invest. If you're just taking up running, don't spend that kind of money on a trainer. Get something nice and simple, something that's quite padded though. I mean, you can probably, if I hold these shoes up, you can see the difference in the padding. So I would get something obviously that's quite cushioned if you're going out to run, but I wouldn't spend the money to go to a shoe shop and have them assess your feet and things like that. Unless you're starting to do a lot of mileage, then that money is incredibly well spent. So it's just where you are in your training, basically, how serious you are and how much of it you're doing. And the same applies for sports. Like, obviously, sports are so tough because it can obviously depend on the pitch as well, so you may have to get sport specific shoes no matter what, but certainly how much you spend on those shoes. I would only spend a lot of money on a great pair of tennis shoes or like football boots or whatever, if that's something you're doing a lot of. If you're doing it once a week, you probably don't need the best shoe on the market. So when you're thinking about price, they're probably the most important things. If you're doing a sport, doing it regularly, definitely get a sport specific shoe. If you're just doing all round training, you don't need to stress about what shoe you buy. Go into a cheap sports shop, look online and get a shoe that you like and that's comfortable. So even if you're buying them online, make sure you wear them around the house and get a feel for them, because that's something you only know by trying the shoe on. But also, like, most of the time for indoor training, I just buy shoes that I like the look of, that don't cost too much money. So that would be my advice for what trainer to buy.